This is the pre-lab for the teeny tiny Hindenburg lab. So take out your lab notebook, go ahead and write out your purpose, and then skip a line and write your pre-lab. And I will show you how to do the reactions for your pre-lab. So if you need to pause the video here so that you can write down your pre-lab reactions, you can do that. So hydrogen peroxide is one of the things you're going to use in this lab, and hydrogen peroxide naturally breaks down into water, liquid water, and oxygen gas. And oxygen gas is what we're trying to use in this lab. We're producing oxygen gas. I'm actually going to have you put a little box around this in your lab notebook. And this reaction is going to take place in the large test tube. So you can see you put your hydrogen peroxide in there, and then you're going to add a potassium iodide catalyst. So that's going to go on top of your arrow. The other reaction you're going to do is the reaction between zinc and hydrochloric acid, and it's going to produce zinc chloride, which is soluble in water, that's aqueous, and hydrogen gas. So this will be in the small test tube. And you can see your list of materials and chemicals. You don't have to write those down, but those are the things we're going to be using in the lab. And you can follow along with your procedure down at the bottom. So I've already written this out so you can follow along. So we're going to talk about how to make your gas factories and then how to fill up your Hindenburg. So here's your procedure. You're going to fill a large test tube half full of your peroxide and add 2 or 3 drops of potassium iodide. And then that will bubble and make oxygen gas. Pause the video if needed. Then you're going to get a small test tube and fill it full of zinc and fill it about, well, you're not going to fill it all the way full. You're just going to fill it like a tiny bit of the bottom. So if you take a look at your pinky fingernail, it's about that amount of zinc. And you're going to fill it half full of hydrochloric acid. And then the hydrogen gas will come out of that. And both of these have a stopper in them that has a hole in it, so that your gas will come out of those stoppers. You have 2 different ways to make the gases that you need for this lab. Then you're going to take your little Hindenburg, which is just a cut-off pipette. You're going to stick it under water, and you're going to fill it completely with water. So I would squeeze it before you dip it under the water, so that way it gets totally full. And then you're going to use your pipette. You're going to stick it over top of the hydrogen and oxygen test tubes and fill it up with different amounts of hydrogen and oxygen. When you think you have the amount of hydrogen and oxygen you want to use, you're going to stick it into an orange flame, spray it in there, and you'll be able to see whether or not your combination of gases produces a reaction. So you're going to try hydrogen by itself, oxygen by itself, and then a combination of different gases. So once you've had a chance to draw this procedure, I want you to draw your data table in your lab notebook using a ruler. So this is the data table in your lab. You need to go ahead and draw that. There are spots on your data table for hydrogen and oxygen when you use different ratios. So one of the ratios I would use would be half and half. So half hydrogen, half oxygen. And then you can decide as a group what you want the rest of your ratios to be. Your observations are just what do you see or hear when you put these different gases into your orange Bunsen burner flame. So I'd take a look at your questions in the lab as well. You may be able to answer some of those before you even start. So that way you have an idea of what you're shooting for.